She'd worked there for 4 years. She'd just been promoted. She was one of the best in the company. And then, she told her boss she was pregnant. 2 weeks later, she was gone. A Denver jury looked at the evidence. They looked at what Pinnacle Marketing Group did to Jessica Odom, and they handed down a verdict that made headlines across the country. $2.8 million. This is a true American workplace justice story. Jessica Odom was 31 years old. She grew up in a small town outside of Colorado Springs, where her father worked in construction and her mother taught elementary school. Jessica watched them work hard every single day, and she carried that with her. She graduated from the University of Denver with a degree in communications. By 26, she had landed a position at Pinnacle Marketing Group, one of the largest marketing firms in the Rocky Mountain region. The company was valued at $85 million and employed over 400 people. Jessica was hired as a junior coordinator, but she didn't stay junior for long. Within 3 years, she had been promoted to marketing director, overseeing a team of 12 and managing campaigns worth millions. Her salary? $132,000 a year. By all accounts, Jessica Odom was exactly the kind of employee that every company wants. Hardworking, dedicated, loyal. Pinnacle Marketing Group, on the outside, had built a reputation as a progressive, employee-friendly workplace. They had diversity training. They had a modern office in downtown Denver. They even published a company blog about supporting working families. But behind those glass walls, the story was very different. In March of 2022, Jessica found out she was pregnant. She and her husband had been trying for over a year. It was one of the happiest moments of her life. She planned carefully. She scheduled a meeting with HR and informed them professionally. Just as the company handbook required, she submitted the proper paperwork. She even offered to help train a temporary replacement during her maternity leave. Everything was by the book. Within days, her supervisor, a man named Daniel Whitmore, the vice president of operations, pulled her into his office. Jessica would later recall his exact words. He said, "Jessica, I have to be honest with you. The timing on this is not ideal for the company." She asked what he meant. He told her that a major client presentation was coming up in 6 weeks. He told her that the company couldn't afford any distractions. And then he said something that Jessica would never forget. He said, "We need people who are fully committed right now." Jessica left that meeting with a knot in her stomach. She told herself it was just a conversation. She told herself nothing was going to change. She was wrong. Over the next 2 weeks, things shifted. Jessica's calendar began to empty. Meetings she had been leading were suddenly reassigned. Her direct report started receiving instructions from Whitmore directly, without Jessica being copied. She sent an email to HR asking for clarification. The response was generic. "Thank you for your concern. We will follow up." They never followed up. On April 14, 2022, Jessica walked into work at 8 in the morning, as she did every day. By 10 a.m., she was called into a conference room. 3 people were sitting at the table: our legal and Daniel Whitmore. They slid a piece of paper across the table. The letter said, "Your position is being eliminated due to a company restructuring." Company restructuring. Jessica looked at the letter. Then she looked at Whitmore. She asked him directly, "Is this because I told you I was pregnant?" The room went silent. No one answered. Jessica was escorted out of the building that same day. Her personal belongings were already packed in a box. That night, she sat at her kitchen table and stared at the wall. She was 3 months pregnant, unemployed, and scared. But something was building inside her. Something quiet. Something that was about to become very loud. Jessica called her sister the next morning. Her sister, who happened to be an employment attorney, listened to the entire story. And then she said 4 words that changed everything. She said, "You have a case." Jessica hired a lawyer within a week. And on May 2, 2022, the lawsuit was filed. Jessica Odom versus Pinnacle Marketing Group and Daniel Whitmore. Charges: pregnancy discrimination, retaliation, wrongful termination. The case went to trial in Denver County Court in September of 2023. The judge assigned to the case was the Honorable Margaret Castillo. From the very first day, It was clear that Pinnacle Marketing Group was going to fight this. Their defense was simple. Jessica's position was eliminated as part of a broader restructuring. Her pregnancy had nothing to do with it. But then the discovery phase began, and everything changed. During legal discovery, Jessica's legal team subpoenaed internal company communications. What they found was devastating. An email chain between Daniel Whitmore and the company's chief operating officer, dated just 3 days after Jessica disclosed her pregnancy, contained a single line that destroyed the defense. It read, "Let's start the process of moving Jessica out. We can frame it as restructuring, 3 days." The decision had been made 3 days after she told them she was pregnant. The defense team scrambled. They claimed the email was taken out of context, but the timeline spoke for itself. Then the witnesses took the stand. The first witness was a former HR coordinator named Maria Santos. She testified that Daniel Whitmore had approached her 2 weeks before Jessica's termination and asked her to begin building a file on Jessica, looking for any performance issue, no matter how minor, that could justify letting her go. The second witness was another former employee, a woman named Rachel Kim, who had also become pregnant while working at Pinnacle. Rachel testified that she had been quietly pushed out of her role 6 months earlier under similar circumstances. She had never spoken publicly about it until that courtroom. The courtroom was silent. Then came Daniel Whitmore himself. Under cross-examination, Whitmore was asked about the email. He shifted in his seat. He said the email was poorly worded. He said he had meant something different. Jessica's attorney held up the email on the screen for the entire jury to see. She asked Whitmore one simple question. "Mr. Whitmore, in 17 years of working in corporate America, have you ever sent an email telling someone to move an employee out and frame it as restructuring for any reason other than to eliminate that employee?" Whitmore did not answer. The jury had seen enough. On October 9th, 2023, after 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned to the courtroom. The foreman stood. "In the matter of Odom versus Pinnacle Marketing Group, we find in favor of the plaintiff on all counts." All counts. Jessica gripped her attorney's hand so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The damages breakdown was announced moments later. Lost wages and future earning potential, $420,000. Emotional distress, $680,000. Punitive damages against Pinnacle Marketing Group, $1,200,000. Punitive damages against Daniel Whitmore personally, $500,000. Total, $2.8 million. Daniel Whitmore sat motionless in his chair. His attorneys leaned in to whisper, but the verdict had already been delivered. Where are they now? Jessica Odom gave birth to a healthy daughter for months after she was terminated. She named her Grace. Today, Jessica runs a consulting firm focused on workplace policy and employee advocacy. Her company works with mid-size corporations to build stronger protections for employees, especially for working mothers. Daniel Whitmore resigned from Pinnacle Marketing Group within 2 weeks of the verdict. The company's stock value dropped by 14% in the following month. Pinnacle has since been the subject of 2 additional discrimination lawsuits, both of which settled out of court. And Pinnacle Marketing Group, they rewrote their entire HR policy from the ground up. They hired an independent firm to conduct a full audit of how pregnant employees had been treated, not just under Whitmore, but for the past decade. Jessica Odom didn't just fight for herself. She fought for every woman who was ever told, directly or indirectly, that having a child meant she was no longer valuable. The law is clear. Pregnancy is not a reason to fire someone. It never has been. But laws only matter when someone is brave enough to enforce them. Jessica was brave enough. Justice has a pulse. If you believe in accountability, if you believe that no corporation should be above the law, subscribe to Story Pulse Pro. New true American stories every week. What would you have done in Jessica's situation? Tell me in the comments below.